Thanks very much for coming to watch the Eco Together First Host orientation video. And thank you also for potentially thinking about becoming a first host for Eco Together, because it's really the key ingredient. And so just as a refresher, the theory behind Eco Together is that it works by using the power of small groups to overcome barriers to prioritising climate action. So it takes it as a given that most people are concerned about the climate and they have got a list of things they'd like to do, but it's just getting around to it. And so what we've seen is that small groups, any small group really, can just give people that extra bit of motivation and support to get on and do those actions. It meets people where they are at. So it's very much trying to be neutral, trying to give up options for people wherever they are, whatever their lifestyle or worldview. It wants to really encourage as many people as possible to participate, because climate concern is really widespread and cuts across pretty much everyone in the UK. We want to innovate to gain scale. So each year and each time it runs, we will tweak the model, and we really welcome your input. And we feel this is a model that can scale up to involve lots and lots of people. And we're just working to get it to the point where it does that. So yes, please do feedback, because it's always changing. And it's open source. It can be used by any group. So we feel like this is the universal thing, this power of small groups. And so we just want anyone who is going to be interested in getting these small groups together to just use what they want from Eco Together. You can rebrand it. You can use it to build your own environmental group. Just go for it. So the plan is this. So it has sort of an annual cycle. So although you can join and pick up Eco Together anytime, it doesn't have to be part of this cycle. This is just what we as a small volunteer working group will do. So we launch groups in September and October, so we have a big push to kind of get new groups, and then we do orientations, groups form and they run, celebrate probably about 6 months later or so, depending on the cycle. So it can take about that long to run, to get the 5 sessions in, and then reflect and evolve the model and evolve the project to take on board the feedback and the experiences that people have had with it. So the first host, as said previously, this is crucial, but it's not a massive workload. The whole of Eco Together is designed for busy people, including the role of first host. We understand that first hosts, the type of people who will be first hosts, are often people who just make things happen. They've got a lot on in their lives. This is probably juggling one of several projects that they're involved in. And so we've tried to make the role very, very easy. And I can personally attest to this as a working mum, involved in lots of other voluntary activities. So first role is to find the participants. And this probably is where, for people who don't have a ready-made group of friends or church or whatnot, or faith group, or book club that they're going to be finding people from, this can perhaps take the longest. And then you agree how and when to run the sessions, and that's just entirely up to you. We suggest running them probably about monthly is probably optimal, because it keeps the momentum whilst giving people time to do some actions, but however suits your group best. And the first host will run the first session, although potentially members of the Eco Together working group can come and help with that if need be. But it's fairly easy to run that first session. We'll talk through it, complete the feedback form, and be the main contact for the Eco Together team. So we're trying to keep it light in terms of the amount of monitoring we do, but we also obviously do want to capture how things are going. And then once that's happened, once they've got the group together and done the first session, the group members then take it in turns to run the sessions. And this is really important, just for the feel of the group, that gives the first host the chance just to sit back and enjoy being part of the group, and reduces the workload for the first host. It's very different to be running a session than participating in one. So we want to make sure that we share that. And also it gives the others a chance to have that little bit of chance to show leadership really on an environmental issue, which might not be a chance that they would otherwise get. And once the group is going, there's very little to do. I can attest that I was part of 2 Eco Together pilots, and really for me, I had so much else on my plate that once we decided who was running which session, sometimes I'd be like, oh my goodness, Eco Together is later today. I better read the stuff. And I was able to prepare for it very quickly without really having to think about it in between, other than just working on what I said I was going to try to do action-wise. So the session 1, this is really how it looks. And so this is all set out in the activity sheet. And so on the participants page of the Eco Together website, you'll find the two key support documents, which is the info pack and the activity sheet. And the activity sheet is the one that has the running order of each session. And so you just introduce each other, just kind of name and why you want to be involved in Eco Together, standard stuff, and you give a lot of time for that. And then you go through the group guidelines, and I'll talk about that in a minute. This is really important for just setting up the group to function and to be able to be run by each of the members, having these ground rules. Even if someone's not particularly confident in running groups, they, you know, these guidelines will sort of hold the group and keep it together. Then getting organised. So this is about who's going to run each session and when. And some people might not feel confident to run a session, and that's fine. So some people might end up running two. You just have to work out with your own group who's comfortable doing what. Again, the whole thing about Eco Together is there's no expectation, there's no judgment. It's purely positive. It's purely celebrating what we all can do. So just work with who you've got, and I'm sure we'll manage. And then really the main item, I suppose, the discussion is our powers. So this, as you know, is the lifestyle, community, communication and advocacy powers that are core to the Eco Together approach. As a first host, you sort of want to encourage your group to prepare for the session. It's a much richer session if they've read the info pack and then completed the activity sheet. There's sort of two parts to Eco Together, really, that in terms of how it creates change. One is through the supportive group environment, but the other one is the reflective time that you get when you actually have to spend the time thinking, how do I want to react to this issue area, energy, food, transport and resources. So just encourage the group to give themselves that time. Only half an hour or 15 minutes is probably fine, but it's just really important. So the guidelines, so you go over this in the first session and you discuss and sort of agree to these or amend them if people feel like they'd like to amend them. But it's basic stuff, but it's really worth actually saying it and getting that kind of shared understanding. So commitment, which is, committing, each member will commit to being reliable really for the group and keeping everyone notified. If they can attend the sessions, really committing to attend the sessions. Oftentimes you'll end up, because of this principle, you might end up rescheduling the session. Something in life will get in the way for people a lot of the time, and that means the group says, yeah, we'll try to stay together. If people want, also means that people, if they aren't really finding the group useful or whatever, something big comes up, they need to tell the group and just be upfront and say, I actually can't do this right now, and that's absolutely fine as well. Listening and respect. So we don't actually use a talking stick. You might have used the idea of a talking stick. It's an American Indian methodology where you hold a stick when you're talking and then you pass the stick to the next person who wants to talk. And what that does is it means that there's only really one person at a time, and it's a way to kind of not let discussion get out of control. So it's just the stick passes and that person talks and no one interrupts. We don't use a talking stick because that's quite tricky. Some of these meetings are virtual, but the idea is that to get around, for the sessions to stay on target when it's such a massive topic, and that people won't have, a lot of the time people don't talk about this stuff very much, and the floodgates will open, which is amazing in itself, but you also need to keep it on track. And so what we suggest is that you go round each question, each time the group is asked to respond to something, just take it in turns without doing discussion. So person A says their thing, no questions or discussion. Person B says their thing, no questions and discussion. And then at the end, you can discuss it and pick up on it. And it'll be really hard because you'll be desperate to say, oh, but yes, I totally agree. And you want to, but I think this just provides this really non-judgmental, respectful, equal type of atmosphere. So that's something to talk about in the group, is can people try to abide by that? Non-judgment. So again, as we've said, this is whatever anyone does is marvelous. Let's celebrate together. Let's commiserate together when it's difficult. Confidentiality, of course. You don't want people saying, oh, Sue from down the road did this. We don't want to attribute anything that comes out of these groups. We want to talk about being part of Eco Together. Of course, that's communication power, but want to make sure to treat everything that people say sort of in confidence, really. Punctuality and focus, fairly self-explanatory. Support, so being supportive, very similar to the judgment point, and then being prepared. So that was the taking the time to actually fill out the activity sheet. So finding a group. So this is really where Eco Together works its magic, because what I know from having been involved in environmental groups is that voluntary groups is often the same people. It's a core of probably a massive town. It will only be probably a couple of hundred who are really actively involved. And the point of Eco Together is to reach out beyond that to people who maybe feel like, oh, I don't know if I could commit to being in a ongoing group, but I could possibly manage these 5 sessions. And then oftentimes that's all they can do, and they leave and they carry forward their eco actions through their lives, through using the powers in whatever way they want. But sometimes what you'll find is people do want to, they enjoy being part of a group, and at that point they can carry on with a local eco group and provide new people for that group and new energy and ideas. So really finding a group, you go out and you're getting people involved who aren't already involved in other groups a lot of the time. So either they're neighbours or your friends, you know, any group of 5 to 10 people. You can do that with flyers, you can do that with social media, local newspapers. You know, it might be easy, you might know who those 5 people are already, or 10 people. You can do as much or as little publicity as you want, really, just to find it. It's not massively hard to find that many people. We suggest with flyers, it takes, if you're going to flyer, get maybe 100 printed to begin with, and put out 100, see what you get. If you don't get very many people, don't worry about it. Just go out and put out another 100 in the street, one street over, because it depends, you know, how many people in a particular area are ready for this. But just keep on patiently flyering and you will get that group. And then once you've got people involved, you just chat to them. When do they want to have the group? What's their background? You know, we get to know them a little bit, and then you can invite them in to organising the first session. There's the guidance on this, the First Host guidance document on the First Host's webpage on the website, and this has sample materials as well. And this is the sample flyer. You can edit the bottom of it just to put your details. We're going to make a non-neighbourhood one as well to put up there if you're looking at recruiting from a different group. So in terms of support, so Eco Together HQ, we are a small voluntary team, but we're very passionate about Eco Together, and so we will actually, if you want, you can. And this is all optional. Some people will just pick up the materials and run with it, and that is great. Just let us know if you would, just so that we know that you're out there doing it. But you might not need any more support than just using the materials. But for some people, it will be helpful perhaps to have a buddy, someone who can use your specific point of contact with Eco Together. You can ask questions, their experience, they can tell you where everything is. They could possibly come out and help you if need be. They could possibly come and run your first session if you'd like. We're happy to do all of those things. There's a support and info WhatsApp group. So this is just to have it. We've chosen WhatsApp just because most people have WhatsApp. It's a very low friction, if you like. It's easy. So that will suit some people to be part of that as well. And you can invite your group to join that as well if they want. We can help potentially with flyering, and also let us know if you want printed versions of the materials. We can do that up to a point. Got a limited budget, but certainly let us know if a beautiful printed info packs would be helpful for you and your group. And that's really it. So I hope that's given you a bit of a sense of what it's like to run a group. Definitely get in touch with questions. As you can tell, we can wax lyrical about this for ages. So yeah, thanks again very much for your interest, and we look forward to hearing from you.